Hey, thanks for checking out this podcast. Our hope is that it's an encouragement to you, that it builds your faith, that it helps you be a better leader and a better influencer in and through your life. If this is helpful to you, we'd love you to subscribe and also share it with somebody else to encourage them too. Thanks. Well, good day, everyone.
Here we are.
Here we are. Actually, right now, this moment, we are in a new podcast studio.
Yep.
Pretty exciting.
We're closer. I feel closer to you right now.
We are closer, but this is not a new podcast.
Nope, same podcast.
We are continuing the same podcast and really excited today. Well, we've been growing in through this entire podcast since its beginning. Our vision is that we would be able to just keep taking steps together on our walk of faith, right? We're coming alongside you and walking with you as you grow in your faith, right from pre-following Jesus up to some of those new steps, finding your way in following Jesus. And then as you take some of those new steps, then it's like, hey, how about growing to full maturity?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We've enjoyed walking with you this far. I think we're coming up on a year almost. It might have been a year since we started recording these. And so we're really grateful for the direction we've been in. We feel like we've put out some content that have helped people. And so we want to continue to help people.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about winning the war in your mind.
Yep.
Because there's a battle going on.
Yep.
And it's just right between your temples.
Absolutely. I think this is a topic that comes up inevitably in your Christian walk. In most adult walks, you come to the point where you realize that the mindset that you have controls everything. The mindset that you have frameworks all of your actions.
Right.
And what's crazy about it is that all the things around you are hoping to pull you in different directions and shift your mindset. So, you know, we talk a lot about how advertisements are so annoying. Like you'll be trying to watch a YouTube video and there's like a bunch of ads that pop up. But advertisements are not just on your phone. They're everywhere. You go down the street. They're everywhere.
Right.
A recent article says that the average American or North American will see 4,000 to 10,000 ads every single day just by walking down the street.
So this is the challenge, and that becomes a battle zone.
Yeah.
Because those ads are vying for your attention.
Right.
They're vying for your thoughts. They're trying to capture those. Because the way thinking works is thoughts come in and out of our brain fluid all the time.
Absolutely.
You can't actually hold a thought in your mind. It comes in and out, in and out, in and out. And what meditating on something means is bringing the same thought back again and again and again.
Right.
So what an advertisement is doing is it's trying to capture those thoughts and win them in a given direction. It's trying to hold your attention or bring that same thought back again and again.
Right. And so the key piece of this is that as a Christian, there are thousands and thousands of things trying to pull you in their direction. Yeah. But what we must do is be intentional about putting our attention towards godly things. And we'll get to that in a moment here.
Right.
But we really want to identify the issue.
Right.
So a lot of us find ourselves, being led down, having thoughts that aren't ourselves almost. Like, for instance, some of us will go home and we will immediately turn on Netflix.
Right. Yeah.
And watch a show for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And 4 hours later, you're like, how did I get here?
Right. You don't even know why you did that or what happened. It was sort of accidental.
Yeah. And maybe you don't watch Netflix. Maybe you're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram.
Sure.
And you realize, where's the time gone? I've been scrolling on this thing for way too long. Yep. Whether it's that or feeling like you need to go eat fast food right now because you saw an ad for a fast food place.
Exactly.
There are always going to be things pulling you in different directions.
Yes, so much of our life is driven by our thoughts, what we're paying attention to.
Yep.
And so the goal is, and this is the crazy thing, and this is what we've got to learn together and what Scripture invites us to, we have to pay attention to what we pay attention to.
Yeah.
Or another way to say it is, think about what you think about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's taking a step back from your thoughts.
Right.
Instead of thinking in your thoughts, you think on your thoughts.
Right.
Or instead of paying attention, you step back and you pay attention to what you pay attention to.
Right.
So let me just tell you a story that happened to me just the other day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was listening to a podcast, and I love podcasts. So here we are doing a podcast. Congratulations, you listeners. You want to learn things. You're growing, right? And this guy said this at the opening of his podcast. He said, I want to thank you for listening to this. You pay for it. It's free, but you're actually paying for this podcast with your attention. You're paying for it.
Right.
And I thought, you know what, I am. I could be paying with my attention to 1,000 other things.
Right.
But by choosing to pay attention to this one podcast right now,
Right.
I am neglecting, a million other options
Right.
of what I could be doing with my attention in this given moment.
Yeah, and I think that's vital. Like, we live in a world where the highest currency
Right.
outside of currency
Yes.
is your eyeballs and your attention.
Your attention.
So let me tell you something. Never in the history of the world has an athlete made as much money as they do right now, and it's not because they got better at throwing that ball.
Right.
It's not because they got better at sports. It's because people pay for attention.
Right.
So what happens is all these advertisers of different companies are saying thousands and thousands and millions of people are watching these guys play a game. Let me put my product behind these guys
Right.
playing the game, and I'll pay them. And, do that thousands of times over for the last, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
You have an economy that's built on attention. Billboards.
Yes.
The wood doesn't cost that much. It's the actual spot that they're putting a product on.
Right.
Television shows, they're not being paid because the stories are good.
Right.
They're being paid because people are watching this show and they're going to put advertising in it.
Right. And this goes to just about every industry that you can imagine,
Yep.
but in particular, some of those modern industries like social media,
Yep.
and then video gaming is even more this way, right?
Yep.
Video gaming, I understand, makes more money than Hollywood and all these other industries. Somebody told me once put together that the gaming industry is one of the largest financial industries.
Yep.
But how does it function? Well, it functions by being able to capture and keep attention.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
By manipulating certain techniques, figuring out what works.
Right.
To give us those what they call the dopamine hits.
Exactly.
That are gonna
That's exactly what Instagram or Twitter are. It's little dopamine hits, and they want you to keep going back to it.
Right.
And so they'll give you things like a notification that said someone liked your post or your picture.
Right.
And then, that felt good. I'm going to do it again. And you keep coming back because of these little good feelings you get. Now, here's the thing. All of these people, all of these things are vying for your attention, but not all of them are going to benefit you.
Right.
Which leads us to kind of our second area that we want to talk about is when you are not focused, when you are not intentional, you will go where the wind blows.
Right.
You'll just bounce off of each and every other thing. You will become a product of your environment and not a product of the person who authored you.
Yeah, like when you think of a hyper dog, right?
Yep.
What gets the attention of a dog? Well, anything and everything, right?
Yeah.
Just whatever happens to be in front of it in that millisecond, and then it's something else, and then it's something else, and then it's something else. And so we can become victims instead of taking responsibility for our lives, right? We're just victims of whatever is pulling us in whatever direction.
Right.
And we can feel sort of out of control of our lives and of the direction of our lives. And so becoming intentional about what you think about, or paying attention to what you pay attention to, think about what you think about, and you take back control of your life.
Right. That's huge. I think about this lack of focus or priority, and I especially feel for a lot of young adults who, so people around my age have lived their entire life almost in a space where this is all they know is screens.
Right.
And so what I feel for is the young adult who comes to me and says, Jeremy, I don't have a direction for my life.
Right.
And I ask them, what have you been doing for the last 3 or 4 years? Well, I got a job because someone told me to get a job. And I go on my phone because I feel like it. I watch Netflix because I feel like it.
Yeah.
I play these video games because I feel like it.
Yeah.
They go with wherever their desires lead them, and it doesn't go anywhere good. They're just floating.
Right.
They're wandering.
Yeah. I often think of sort of being like a ping pong ball, right?
Yeah,
I'm just sort of bouncing from thing to thing, wandering, and my life then lacks focus, attention, direction.
Right.
And of course, then it lacks impact.
Totally.
And beyond that, it lacks fulfillment.
Right.
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 So you just kind of live for the next high or the next moment rather than having some depth to our lives.
Totally.
So one more thing, though, I want to just add to this. So your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts, So we've been talking a lot about direction or intention.
Say that line again a couple more times.
Okay, so your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. That's a Craig Groeschel quote, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
The more you think about something, the more you move in that direction.
Wow.
Your focus determines your direction, right? And your direction determines your destination, right? So direction, not intention, determines destination, right? We often think, well, I meant to go this way. Where you meant to go isn't where you go. Right. It's where you're facing, where you're focusing that you end up going.
In my circles, the line that really stuck with me, I forgot it earlier, but I just remembered it. Yep. Where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Yes.
So wherever your attention is where all your energy is going to be put.
Yep. And this is, we teach this a lot in various sports. Like I'm doing badminton right now, coaching badminton, and we do this in tennis. We do this in various sports that I'm involved in, where you look and where your body is positioned towards is where things are going to go, right? Yeah. So if I'm hitting the bird, I want my body to be moving towards where I want the bird to move towards, right? And I want my eyes to be moving in that direction, and so on. Or they tell drivers this, right? Yeah. Eyes on the road. Yeah. Why? Because you want to stay on the road, right? Yeah. If you're one time I was a youth pastor, we were on this trip, and one of the kids was driving. He's a new driver. He's like 16-year-old kid. Yeah. And we were chatting away, and somebody says, "Oh, look over there!" And there was some like deer in the field, And sure enough, this 16-year-old boy, he's a sweet kid, but he looks off at these deer, and the car just starts veering over into the ditch, right? And I'm like, hey, eyes on the road! And he swerves back onto the road. We're like, But that's where your eyes are attention is. That's where you're going to go. But let me take it deeper, okay?
Yeah.
So one level deeper is also what you think about is what you become.
Oh, man.
So it's not only where you go, it's who you become. Your character is formed by what I would call the strongholds that come in your thinking. Wow. So, for example, let's say you think angry thoughts. Okay? Well, that's just an angry thought, and you be angry in that moment. Or you can start to feel, if you think sad thoughts long enough, you'll feel sad, right? If you think angry thoughts, you'll feel angry. If you think happy thoughts, you feel happy, and so on. And those affect those moments, but it's more than that. As you do that, you build pathways in your brain and in your emotional capacities that go in that direction. So the more you focus on it in a certain direction, the more you become that. It actually says that in Proverbs. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Wow.
Right? Wow. You become what you think about.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting and scary at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so Colossians chapter 3, let me give you a wonderful Bible verse. I love the whole book of Colossians. For me, it's my favorite book of the Bible because it is Christ magnifying. It lifts up Jesus and it puts him at the center. And if there's anything that we want to become like, anything we want to move towards, it's Jesus.
Yep.
So as Christ followers, I want to become like Jesus. I want to move towards Jesus.
Yeah.
How do I become like something? I think about it lots.
Right.
How do I move towards something? I think about it lots.
Right.
So here's Colossians 3, verse 1. If then you were raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on things on earth.
Wow.
There it is. Set your mind. Right? That's bringing my mind again and again and again, setting it in a given direction so that I can both move in that direction and become more like that.
I think that's huge because oftentimes I think we downplay the importance of our inner voice. We downplay the importance of what we dwell on.
Right.
And I think of seasons in my life where I've dwelled on issues, or I've dwelled on things that are not ideal, or I've dwelled on insert any random bad thing. And it doesn't add to my world at all. It doesn't make it better. It just brings me down.
Right.
But even bad seasons where I've kept my focus on not just positive things, but God things. Where I've kept my focus on God's hand in all these things and set my focus on things above. Like, it changes the way that you walk around. It changes the person you are.
It changes the person you are.
It changes everything.
It's who I am. Right. And this is what's so some people are sort of like looking for themselves. I'm looking
Yeah.
for who am I and all that stuff. Well, you create who you are
Wow.
to some degree by the focus of your life, by what you pay attention to and what you put your thoughts on.
Right. So I think we put a lot of equity in this idea of discovering ourselves.
Right.
And I think there's a bit of merit to that.
sure, for
but
sure.
it pales in comparison to seeking God's vision for your life.
Yes.
And that is development. That's not
Exactly.
You're not trying to find information about yourself.
Right.
You're trying to walk with God as he develops
As you become.
Yeah.
Right?
It is a becoming thing.
Right.
It's not a identifying things that are within me.
Right.
It is walking in a way that changes myself to being more Christ-centered and Christ-like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
That's beautiful.
huge.
And so now, okay, so before we stop this first part of
Yeah.
our Winning the War of Your Mind podcast,
Yeah.
people might start feeling now like, whoa, this is heavy and this is gonna be hard and I don't know how to stop it. I just can't stop
Yeah.
thinking angry thoughts, or I just can't stop thinking depressed thoughts. And
Yep.
and in some ways you're right, and that's why we're doing part 2.
Totally.
Because right now we just want you to hear the importance. Like, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is going to affect the direction of your life. This is going to affect who you become. All over Scripture, we're commanded, to think
Yeah.
the right thoughts and set our attention and dwell on the right things. And then you sort of go, but I need help. But I struggle
Yeah.
to do that.
Yep.
And we get in ruts, right?
Yeah.
The reality is I can be stuck in a rut of negative thinking or sad thinking or angry thinking.
Right.
Or fearful thinking. And when you're stuck in that rut, you can't think anything else.
Right.
And that's why we're going to do another podcast where we talk about how do I break free from that? How do I change my thoughts
Yeah.
and think more God thoughts?
Yeah. And if you're finding yourself having to wait until the next podcast, a little tiny snippet of things to do this week while you wait for the next podcast is watch what you eat. In other words, watch what you take in.
Right.
The things that you give attention to will shape the way you think.
Right.
So think media consumption. What am I watching? What am I consuming my mind with? What am I reading?
Yep.
And 2, watch the people you're with.
Exactly.
The people
Come
around
on.
you will influence where you're going to
So
go.
good.
So just look at those things, kind of take evaluation and ask questions to yourself. Like, is this the way I want to go?
Yeah, and begin to pray, right? And say,
Yeah.
okay, Holy
Yep.
Spirit, help me take ownership
Yep.
and take responsibility and give me strategies, give me wisdom, give me ideas. Because the more you own that, the more you take personal responsibility
Right.
for your thoughts, the more you'll begin to start to see some of those strategies day by day. So now our hope is in this podcast, you're awake to it.
Right.
You're not just living blindly. You're not just wandering through life, letting whatever grabs your attention. You're realizing, oh my goodness, this is a big deal. I need to pay attention to what I pay attention to.
Amen.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. We'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Boom, bam.